Hi, I'm Father Jim Forson, and I'd like to offer you some reflections on the readings on this Feast of the Holy Family. And today is Holy Family Sunday. And when we say Holy Family, what automatically comes to mind is the family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And we hear the story in the gospel about the presentation of Jesus in the temple and how the old priest Simeon sees the baby Jesus and sees more than that, sees the Messiah. And off to the side is Anna, the old prophetess, and she sees what's going on, and she likewise sees that holiness in that family. And so we celebrate today this feast by which our families are called to be as was that of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. We're called to be holy. And the scriptures today are filled with ideas, suggestions on how to have a holy family. We hear in the readings things like the mother has authority over her sons, or it says, fathers, don't provoke your children, and sons, take care of your father in their old age. And then it calls us all to live with compassion and kindness and humility and forgiveness. And then there's the doozy of them all. Wives, be subordinate to your husbands. And that one really gets it going. And I won't even get into how easily misunderstood that passage of Scripture is. Safe to say it is, but that's the kind of thing that usually goes on Holy Family Sunday. All kinds of ideas about how to be a holy family. So how do we be a holy family? Because when I think of holiness, what comes to mind are things like, being deeply spiritual and devout, and being devoted to the church or to others, and being saintly or being very prayerful, or charity toward all. That's what comes to mind when I think of holiness and a holy family. And if that's what a holy family looks like, I guess my family wasn't a holy one. I mean, my family, we were good Catholics. We were. And, we went to Mass every Sunday. God help us if we didn't. And we prayed as a family. And, oh, my gosh, prayer over meals was a given. I still, to this very day, can't eat Cheerios without saying, bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts. It was just drilled into us. And, Mom took us to confessions and all that kind of Catholic living. So we did all that. But, do I think of my family as being a holy family? No, not really. Deeply spiritual, deeply prayerful, or things like that? No. But I'd like to offer you an idea that maybe having a holy family means something else altogether. Anna, the prophetess, and Simeon, the old priest, they were able to see Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, but they saw more than just a couple bringing their child for a presentation. They were able to look inside and see the sacred. They saw holiness there. And when they saw it, they proclaimed it. It was the same thing that the shepherds saw when they came to the manger. It's what drew the Magi when they came for their visit. It's what Elizabeth, Mary's kinswoman, sensed when Mary came for the visitation. They could see, they could sense the sacred, the divine. And when they saw it, they could not help but be transformed by it. Seeing the holy made them holy. And maybe the same is true for us. When we see the sacred, it can transform us and make us sacred. When we see the holy, we can become holy. I mean, who of us, maybe toward the late afternoon, early evening, we're out for a walk, or maybe just walking to our car to leave work, and we look up and we see a spectacular sunset. I mean, not just one of your ordinary run-of-the-mill sunsets. I mean, something that the sky is just filled with incredible color. Who of us looks at that and goes, oh yeah, nice, and goes on our way? Nobody. When we see a sunset like that, we stop. And we can't help but just stare at it. And we could look at something like that forever, because what we are seeing is the infallible sign of the presence of God. That is to say, beauty. That is to say, the sacred. And when we see that, it can make us sacred. I was listening to the news about this man who was sadly filled with cancer in his kidney and in his liver, and he was in need of a transplant and was on the list. And it turned out that his 2 adult sons made perfect donors. And so one gave a kidney and the other gave part of a liver, and the father's life was saved. And the story showed the 3 of them recovering together in the hospital, and all of them so happy. And the adult sons were saying how grateful they were that they could be able to give their dad life because he had given them life. And tell me, what son wouldn't want to do the same for their dad? And the father was so taken by his son's generosity. He was so grateful to them. And you saw their joy and the happiness they had. And tell me, do you think that was a holy family? Oh yeah, that family was holy. Maybe what makes a family holy is being able to look for the divine within it. And perhaps on this Feast of the Holy Family, what we are called to do is to look inside our families and ask ourselves, where do I see the divine? Where do I see the sacred in my family? And then, just like Anna did, just like Elizabeth, just like those shepherds and those kings, just like Elizabeth, when we see the sacred, we proclaim it, because that is what leads another into holiness. I told my congregation this story about my mom, how one time I was just thinking about all that she had done for me in her life, and I never really thanked her for it. And so, I sat down with Mom one time and I said, Mom, I just got to thinking how grateful I am to you. 28 years working as a school teacher and doing all that sacrifice for me and my sisters, and all that you did for me, Mom, I'm just so grateful. And you know what my mom's reaction was? It was, what's wrong? What's the matter? Who died? You have cancer? Is anything going wrong? And I get it, because who talks that way to each other? We tend not to. But when I finally said to her, no, Mom, everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to say thank you. She goes, okay. And even though it may be kind of difficult or maybe disorienting to the other, it's what we have to do. If I see the sacred, especially in someone in my family, I have to name it. I have to proclaim that, because it leads to holiness. So, on this Feast of the Holy Family, I invite us all to look deeply into our families and to ask ourselves, where do I see holiness? Not perfection, or not as we might dream holiness to be, prayerful, saintly, devout, spiritual. All that's good. But I'm talking about that kind of ordinary goodness, that ordinary sacredness that we can see in somebody in our family. And then I invite us to do something hard, to tell them that. Because if we do, voila, a holy family.